Carl Jung's most unsettling discovery wasn't about mental illness at all. It was about a rare kind of perception, people who notice everything others overlook, and why this gift often destroys them. In his clinical work, Jung described patients with what he termed differentiated perception. These were individuals capable of detecting microexpressions, hidden emotions, and subtle psychological dynamics invisible to most people. They could pierce through social masks, recognize deception instantly, and sense unspoken tensions in any environment. Jung considered this observation dangerous because those who possessed it rarely thrived. They became isolated, drained, and unable to sustain ordinary relationships. Not because they were unstable, but because awareness at that depth carried a cost few understood. Today, I'll walk you through Jung's most dangerous insight about those who see what others cannot, and why he believed this rare sensitivity either crushes you or transforms you into something remarkable. The case that revealed this began with a patient Jung noted in 1913, during the turbulent years following his break from Freud and his own psychological crisis. The patient embodied what Jung would later classify as one of the rarest personality types, possessing what he called undifferentiated intuitive perception. She entered a room and immediately felt its entire psychological climate. Who was dissembling? Who carried pain? Who held resentment? Jung recorded, "The patient demonstrates an uncanny ability to detect unconscious material in others. But this capacity burdens her more than it benefits her. Small talk was impossible for her. She could see through every pretense. Friendships dissolved because people felt exposed. Employment failed because her presence unsettled the invisible social contracts that keep groups intact." Jung realized he was not treating a disorder. He was witnessing what happens when unconscious reality becomes too conscious, when perception becomes too refined to coexist smoothly with society. She described people with startling accuracy, as if she accessed their inner motives directly. Jung tested her insights rigorously, and again they proved correct. This was no delusion, no psychosis. It was awareness so advanced it became socially perilous. Yet Jung uncovered something even more troubling. Her ability could not be explained within ordinary psychology. This pushed him to explore what he later termed participation mystique, a state in which those with extraordinary intuitive attunement unconsciously absorb not only spoken signals, but the unexpressed psychic atmosphere of others. In his notes from the Red Book era, he wrote, "There are individuals so finely tuned that they receive not just conscious messages, but the unconscious aura of their surroundings." Modern research by Dr. Elaine Aron on highly sensitive persons echoes Jung's early ideas. About 20% of people display heightened emotional and sensory sensitivity. Yet Jung identified something even rarer, the introverted intuitive type, roughly 1% of the population, who perceive unconscious patterns with piercing clarity. He noted these individuals possessed a differentiated intuitive function. Their minds processed not only overt cues, but also repressed material, unconscious states, and hidden group dynamics. They recognized despair beneath cheerful masks, desperation under bravado, and the shadow that communities conspire to ignore. Jung warned, "The danger is not the perception itself, but the isolation it generates. One who sees what others cannot becomes a mirror society refuses to look into." This is what he named the problem of the superior function, when one's greatest gift turns into a burden because it separates you from collective belonging. But the real threat, Jung concluded, was not the insight itself. because those who clearly perceive others' unconscious contents often become lightning rods for what he called shadow projection, others attacking them for reflecting back truths they themselves refuse to face. In Psychology of the Unconscious, he wrote, "Nothing influences children so strongly as the unlived life of the parent. But this principle," he realized, applied universally. When someone perceives another's shadow, the unconscious has only two choices: integrate it or attack the one who revealed it. Jung documented case after case where the perceptive individual became the scapegoat. They were blamed for problems they merely illuminated. Suggest someone seemed troubled, and they'd be accused of negativity. Point out obvious issues, and they'd be charged with creating drama. This was no coincidence. It was defense. In Memories, Dreams, Reflections, Jung noted, "Everything that irritates us in others can lead us to self-understanding, but most will rather attack the mirror than confront what it shows." Thus emerged the scapegoat phenomenon. The highly perceptive person becomes the container for what the group cannot admit. Jung saw this repeatedly, and he realized that overwhelming perception did not manifest in one way only. He identified 4 distinct variations of the introverted intuitive type. Type 1. The feeling. Intuitive. These individuals merge intuition with heightened feeling. They literally embody others' emotions, often unable to separate their own feelings from what they've absorbed. Jung wrote, "The feeling intuitive lives in constant contagion, experiencing the unexpressed emotions of everyone around them." Type 2. The thinking intuitive. Here, intuition pairs with thinking. These people perceive psychological patterns and predict outcomes with uncanny precision. They foresee relational breakdowns or personal crises, not through rational analysis, but through unconscious pattern recognition. Type 3. The sensation intuitive. These patients registered the bodily expressions of hidden states, detecting illness before symptoms, exhaustion before acknowledgement, or physical tension linked to repressed emotion. Type 4. The pure intuitive, the rarest kind. They received vast unconscious impressions without a secondary function to help structure or express them. Jung observed they lived in perpetual flood, overwhelmed by raw perception. Understanding which type you are mattered greatly, because each required different strategies for what Jung called integration. But before integration, Jung had to outline why this discovery was so perilous. He identified 3 core dangers. Danger 1, disrupting collective illusion. Groups survive by shared agreements about what to ignore. When someone perceives too clearly, they shatter those illusions and destabilize the social fabric. Danger 2, psychological isolation. Jung called this the curse of the superior function. One becomes an island of awareness, estranged from the unconscious ocean everyone else swims in. Danger 3. Dissolution of identity. The most extreme danger, losing one's own self under the flood of absorbed psychic material. Jung called this participation mystique, the collapse of boundaries until individuality dissolves into collective content. To address this, Jung developed what he called the individuation process, a way of integrating superior perception without losing oneself. It unfolded in 3 main stages. Phase 1, recognition and differentiation. Learning to distinguish what belongs to you versus what you've absorbed from others. He urged solitude as a daily practice to let foreign material settle so the authentic voice of the self could be heard. Phase 2, shadow integration. Recognizing that seeing shadows in others often reflects one's own unacknowledged shadow. Integration meant admitting that every quality observed in others also lives within oneself. Phase 3. Conscious participation, the advanced stage. Here, individuals could engage with unconscious contents without drowning in them. They developed psychological containers, holding others' material temporarily without mistaking it for their own. Jung knew this path could destroy or elevate a person. To illustrate both outcomes, he compared two figures. Nietzsche. Failed integration. Nietzsche's piercing insights tore through cultural illusions, but without integration, they consumed him. Jung wrote that Nietzsche identified too closely with his superior function, and the result was collapse. Meister Eckhart. Successful integration. The medieval mystic also saw beyond the ordinary, but he channeled his vision into wisdom and service. Unlike Nietzsche, Eckhart embodied humility, offering insights as nourishment rather than weapons. Jung also documented his own struggle during his confrontation with the unconscious, 1913-1919. He admitted he was nearly overtaken by psychosis, saved only by recognizing his perceptions as evolutionary rather than pathological. This realization reframed his mission. Highly perceptive individuals weren't broken. They were ahead of their time, carrying consciousness forward. But survival required finding the few who understand, rare companions who could engage without fear or defensiveness. Jung identified 3 relationship types crucial for them. Fellow individuated individuals, rare but instantly recognizable. Those in the process of individuation, engaged in self-work and able to tolerate deep perception. Natural containers, mature personalities capable of holding others' psychic material without collapse. He also devised a gradual revelation strategy. Begin with small observations, test reactions, and deepen only when safety is proven. Insights, he taught, must be offered, not imposed. For Jung, successful individuation was not just personal survival, it was collective medicine. Individuals with superior perception prepared humanity for truths it was not yet ready to face. He described 4 transformations that marked this path: recognition without overwhelm, integration without isolation, service without self-sacrifice, and legacy without attachment. Yet he warned of pitfalls: inflation, believing oneself a prophet; withdrawal, justifying total disengagement; the helper trap, losing self in service; and relapse into overwhelm. Integration, he stressed, is ongoing, not a finished achievement. He prescribed practices to sustain it: solitude, boundary management, shadow work, supportive relationships, and creative expression. Integration, he said, is a conscious dance with complexity, not its eradication. Jung considered these individuals pioneers of consciousness. Throughout history, he noted, their insights foreshadowed cultural transformations. What begins as personal suffering becomes, if integrated, collective growth. Collective. The point, Jung insisted, was not martyrdom, but bridge building, bringing unconscious material into awareness for all, without being destroyed by it. He told the story of his 1913 patient, who after 3 years of individuation, transformed her gift from curse to vocation. She became a counselor, built meaningful relationships, and used her perception consciously rather than being consumed by it. This, Jung declared, was his most dangerous discovery. Some are born with consciousness beyond the collective S capacity to accept. This gift either isolates and destroys, or integrates and evolves into cultural medicine. If you recognize yourself here, know this: your perception is not a defect. It's an advanced function of consciousness development. The challenge is not to suppress it, but to integrate it. Jung concluded, the danger is not seeing everything. The danger is failing to relate consciously to what you see. With integration, you are not too much for this world. You are exactly what its future requires. Which type of differentiated perceiver are you? Share in the comments. Subscribe for more explorations into Jung's psychology that reveal how rare minds navigate an unconscious world. Thanks for watching. See you in the next dimension.